So hello and welcome to the August 26th Lifeboat Academy Coordination Circle. And today our main focus is really on finalizing our fall semester. But before we get into that, as is our custom, we try to make sure that we start in a good way. And so we start by acknowledging the land, which connects us all. Is there anybody who would like to do the land acknowledgement? Or shall I? Since no one's jumping at it. Um, oh, this is my second land acknowledgement today, so I should be getting some good practice. We start by acknowledging the land as a reminder to ourselves that before we were here, the land was here. Before we were people, the land was here, and the land will be here long after we are gone, and long after whatever we are morphs into whatever we'll become. And so by acknowledging the land, we are acknowledging our interconnection, our interdependence, and recognizing that everything that we need to live and survive and thrive comes from the land and returns to the land. And in acknowledging that, in recognizing that, we also acknowledge a deep debt of gratitude to Indigenous cultures around the world that have known this for time immemorial, who have kept this alive at great cost to themselves and their cultures, in the face of cultures that we come from that have forgotten this and tried to attack and deny this fundamental reality. And so we not only recognize that gratitude, but with that comes a debt of obligation, responsibility to make sure that we do everything that we can do to make sure that we are living in right relations. And that involves healing the harms that have happened and making sure that we do all that we can to recognize and respect the contributions, the dependency that we have on all our relations, human and more than human. And so I specifically acknowledge the Wasanic, who are the stewards and keepers of this land for time immemorial, as my most local neighbors of Indigenous descent, and but also all of the Indigenous cultures around the world, the Coast Salish, and everyone on Turtle Island and around the world who is currently working, continuing to work to wake us all up to this reality and to call us all home to doing the work that needs to be done. And so I invite us all just to take a moment to find ourselves in the landscape, to take a deep breath in, breathing in that cool, refreshing, energizing air. And on the exhale, letting the weight of your body just settle into the seat, knowing that the seat is supported by the structure and the structure is supported by the land. Knowing that as we breathe in and as we breathe out, we are engaged in a reciprocal relationship with all our relations, where we take in what we need and we return what is no longer useful to us, knowing that the earth regenerates and returns it to us fresh and new. So with each breath in, feel that energy coming to you, and with each exhale, let go of anything that no longer serves you, any heaviness, any discomfort, any weight, any fatigue. Just let it drip off of you, returning to the land, knowing that this is a cycle that continues forever and ever. And with your next exhale, feel yourself as a body, wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, maybe shake your shoulders, and come and join us back in the circle. I needed that. So Thank you all. And we'll go around the circle and just give everyone an opportunity to check in. And the circle, as I see it, is Roland, Ronnie, April, me. And I think we'll go with the tried and true check in. How's the weather with you? Read that however you want. So, how's your weather today? Roland, over to you. And you're muted.
Unusual rain and cool today, and lulled by the sound of the raindrops. Um, am I first again? Who's next?
Ronnie.
Ronnie.
My weather is actually very similar to the outside weather, which I went internal first and then looked outside. I was like, oh, they're the same. Sunny with really light, fluffy clouds. So almost like a sleepy cloud. Sleepy clouds, but bright sun, blue sky. Yeah. Over to April.
My weather is slightly misty with a few unexpected showers and clearing trends later. Over to Ben.
Yeah, I'm hoping for clearing trends later, both internal and external. Yeah, we're rainy, and earlier I looked out and it was very dark, unusually dark, um and I feel the weather. So when it gets gray, I feel my my battery, and when the sun comes back out, I pop up again. So just going with the flow. All right. So let me share screen and we can take a look at what's on the agenda for today. Um, so what I have added to the agenda is first and foremost is finalizing our fall semester, looking at the dates and then thinking about what are the concrete steps that we need to be taking. If we have time, I also had one of the things I noticed was we had talked about a time banking experiment to start this fall, and I've done some research and made some connections, or I'm in the process of making some connections. But if we have time, I just want to talk through some of the things I'm finding and maybe get some feedback on where to go. And also, this is our seasonal review, and in large part, the schedule has been the results of that review, but there's also some housekeeping that might be good to talk about in terms of guilds and focus and that sort of thing. So those are the things that I have on the list that I've added, but we want to make sure that everyone uh, gets what they need out of this time together. So once around, is there anything else that you would like to have added to the calendar, or sorry, to the agenda, or anything that is important for you to accomplish today in our time together? Roland, over to you. And you're muted again.
I'm good. Go over to Ronnie.
Um, I have launched the grief program that I'm co-facilitating, and I'd like to talk about how to promote that on Lifeboat, or what is the relationship or not relationship. Um, yeah, what might that look like? Yeah, what is the connection? Perfect. And that's all I have to add. Over to April.
I have nothing to add, but I do have a question about where the calendar is, because I meant to check it. I'm having calendar anxiety for the rest of my work and want to make sure that I haven't double booked or any of that kind of thing. So that's my only question. Other than that, over to Ben.
I am putting the link in the chat.
Thank you.
So yeah, the calendar, Roland has started, I believe, to transfer some of what's on the Miro board onto the proper Google Calendar for the Lifeboat Academy. But at the moment, the working model has been the Miro board.
Great, thank you.
So, all right. The one other sort of housekeeping thing that I wanted to add is we have a woofer who was arriving today on the ferry at 5:20, and they're okay that I'm not going to be there at 5:20, but I do want to kind of
Yeah.
get out of here as quickly as possible so that we don't leave them waiting any longer than they need to. So yeah, Roland.
So just an update
Roland?
for me. So she decided not to come on the later ferry?
Yeah. Yep. There was back and forth about whether to come on the 10 o'clock ferry. All right. So I'm guessing. Well, actually, let me ask as a question. Ordinarily in our coordination circle, we spend some time going over the North Star and some of those other things. Um, I'm wondering about how people feel about the best use of time. And I was just going to dive into the calendar, but I think there might be value actually in doing maybe a North Star specifically about what are we hoping. Actually, I'm going to backtrack and say, let's actually start with the North Star, and the North Star question specifically being, what are we hoping for? What would a successful fall semester look like if when we get to the end of the semester and we look back, what are we hoping to have accomplished? And I'm just going to go into our North Star. So, and again, you can always pass. So as I'm typing the question, I'm going to hand it over to Roland. What are you hoping we can accomplish with a successful fall semester? And I'm going to also propose that we do twice through. So we each get a chance to share, and then we come back and we get a chance to reflect on what everyone has said.
Over to me?
Yep.
Excitement, retention, and engagement. Over to Ronnie.
More people, more bums and seats, more commitments, more showing up, more spread out leadership, distributed leadership. Yeah. Over to April.
I'm so glad I come after Ronnie because you've just laid out exactly what I thought in my wildest dreams should be what we could expect for the fall semester. So I have nothing to add on to Ben.
I think I'd like to add that the engagement is more people doing things on the ground where they are as well. People rolling up their sleeves.
Right.
All right. So now that we've each had a chance to share a bit back through, any observations, reflections, anything standing out to you? Back to you, Roland.
I feel that we're all saying the same thing in different words. Over to Ronnie.
What's coming up is more material impact.
Ah.
So not just saying things and planning and talking but shit getting done, money changing hands, things being built, food grown. Which is basically what Ben's saying, but more specific. Over to April.
All of the above, but also more of a sense of the success indicators being met, being more sure of that, I guess, more certain of that. So I guess simple ways to reflect the things in the list that we've mentioned. And also, I want to be excited. Over to Ben.
Yep, what Roland said. I think we're all just you know, blind ones and the elephant, and I think we've got oh look, an elephant. Cool. All right. So then
I have one. Can I
oh,
add
yeah,
one
yeah.
more?
Yeah.
I want people who are involved to feel like they have a community of collapse aware folks around them. Because I keep meeting people who are like, you're one of the only people I know who talks about this stuff. And I want more people to feel like they have their people through our work.
Great. All righty. So I think with that, right, well, let's go into reviewing the calendar. And I'm going to shift over to the Miro board. And I'm not entirely sure the best way of moving forward. And so I'm going to throw it to the circle. What we have a lot of post-its on the board. We've already talked between the last coordination circle and this circle, we had an outreach meeting and a heart work meeting. At each of those meetings, we made really significant progress on thinking through the shape and the pattern of how we see this working. So I guess actually the first thing I'll do is I'll just kind of, you know, here we are pretty much at the end of August, so there's not a lot to review there. But the shape of what we've been talking about is we want to hit the ground running in September, give the people that first week after Labor Day to acclimate, come into the fall idea. And then we will we'll kick things off with 2 orientation sessions that will be at the time when the agreements circle and the coordination circle. What's the other one? Navigation sessions. So basically on Mondays and Fridays, we will have alternating agreement circles and navigation sessions. The agreement circles will be an opportunity to connect on the deep why. You know, how do we want to be with each other? How do we want to work? The navigation sessions will be a way of people problem solving, project shaping. And to kick off that pattern, we'll have an orientation session on both of those. There'll be the same orientation, just at different times so that people can come at different times. And we'll also have a Sociocracy 101, since sociocracy is so fundamental to what we're doing. That will be on the Tuesday evening. And then following when the Sociocracy webinar is, we'll kick off the Connect the Dots Club. And that will be on every Tuesday, weekly on Tuesday nights at 5. And scattered throughout that, we will also continue our guilds more or less on the schedule that we're on now. There's some conversation about whether or not outreach is going to change the time. And basically, we'll keep with that pattern of Connect the Dots Club until we get 4 sessions of that. And then we'll hit the do-it-yourself lifeboat building webinar. take a little bit of a break, and the agreements circle and the navigation session pattern continues, but then we move from connect the dots into the deep adaptation conversations, and they continue, and that is basically sort of the pattern for the semester. And are the dates the same for the grief workshop, for the grief network, Ronnie? They're going to be that Sundays.
Yeah.
So then, starting in November? No, starting in
October
October.
6th.
Starting in October, then there will also be the grief network that will be the 12 steps, 12,
10 steps.
10, sort of the 10 steps of the grief network will be on the Sunday starting in October. And I think in my mind, I've started to think about this fall semester is really getting people geared up to hit the ground running in January with their, birthing or advancing their lifeboat. So this is kind of the prep work that people will be doing to get there. So that's my initial sort of scan of, I think, where we are. So with that, let's go once around. Questions, additions, observations. Roland, over to you.
To be able to add it to the calendar, I need to know where the times are listed.
Yeah, they are in the navigation session. I can't remember what the task is, but we had a poll about the navigation session, and the notes are in that, in a Asana task.
Okay.
Yeah, and we picked, I think, but yeah, the notes are in there.
And the good grief on Sunday?
That's going to be, so the anchor time is 3 to 5 p.m. Central. Because there's a time change in the fall. But I think, yeah, basically Pacific, it's 1 to 3 Central Time on Sundays.
So 1 to 3 Pacific time.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it. So the connect the dots is at 5, and that's
Yeah.
going to carry through for the other things at the same time. Okay, over to Ronnie.
It all looks good to me. I do wonder if we want to talk about the outreach meeting time today, instead of waiting till the next meeting, which isn't till next week. Also, it concerns the meeting time, so yeah. Over to April.
I think I don't have any questions, except I'm wondering about the agreements circle. I have only a vague recollection of how far we've got discussing that. But other than that, no more questions.
Yeah, I think for me, it's I feel, as a sign of how much I think it's coming together, I'm starting to think about outreach, newsletters, social media, that kind of stuff. I feel like it's a good pattern, and especially in a good enough for now, safe enough to try, and likewise, I think I'm also feeling, is it too much? Feeling into, is it too much? I feel like I get the right level of anxiety about it being too much, if it comes to, I think it'll be a question of whether or not what engagement we get with folks. I don't think it's too much at all in terms of facilitation. I think it's very manageable in terms of facilitation. And so I'm just hoping that we get people that are keen on it and showing up. So yeah, I guess so what feel like next steps? Let's I'm going to treat this as gathering considerations around next steps. So brainstorming, any thoughts, concerns, ideas, suggestions. It's all good for the cause. Roland, ideas, next
I will
steps.
pass. Pass to Ronnie.
Um, just in terms of the outreach meeting time, I don't want to move the meeting unless we're absolutely sure that um Janine will be coming.
Mhm.
And I don't currently have that sense because right now the way it is works really well for me. And moving it is going to mean I'm moving other meetings and it's going to kind of move a lot of stuff for me. So um I only want to move that if we feel like it's worth doing. And
Mhm.
that engagement will be there. Over to April.
Um, I, I think it's fine. Um, I don't have all my dates for September in my calendar yet. So I'm wary about the fact there probably will be some conflicts for me. So I'll just have to express what they might be as soon as I know, I guess. Other than that, that's it. Over to Ben.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm thinking about in addition to basic promotion, so newsletter, social media, getting people like signed up for things. The other thing I'm thinking about is Medium posts, deeper, deeper posts with and how to use that. Um, yeah, so that's one of the things on my radar. Back over to you, Ron.
I pass to Ronnie.
Um, I'm happy to keep doing the newsletter. I like doing it and I have sort of a formula and now we have lots of cool new stuff to put in the newsletters. Um, and I propose I don't have it all fleshed out yet, but I propose that we create a fairly simple formula for the social media posts that will go out every week
Mhm.
so that there's no to make it easier and coordinated. So I think it might be worth having a conversation about what that could look like. Over to April.
I don't think I have anything else. Over to Ben.
Yeah, I like the idea with the social media posts. Um, and I think that it really can be a very simple formula, like um, something about whatever events are coming up, that there's a 48-hour or 24-hour advance, kind of reminder, um, and probably a follow-up, maybe from each thing. Um, we talk a lot about how we get excited about the conversations that happen and how do we share them out. So pulling a good quote from every session, every meeting, um, cool quote, cool image, something like that. And also I think questions.
Yeah.
And I think that that could go really well with the navigation sessions. If there's a theme, um, we've talked about themes. Actually, I think for connect the dots for um, the deep adaptation and for the navigation sessions, having a kind of a whetting people's appetite question or two, something like that. So yeah, those are some, and also I agree. I totally like the newsletter. We should probably be able to write the newsletters for the semester now, you know, um,
Uh,
and just have them kind of in the can, ready to go. probably it would be just as much work to write them all at the same time as to write one. So yeah, it makes sense to me. Over to you, Roland.
I just had a thought about the sequence that the connect the dots is part of with the deep adaptation questions, etc. And I wonder if it wouldn't be worthwhile folding the deep adaptation questions in the connect the dots club format so that it becomes a way of recognizing, oh, Tuesdays at 5 is the connect the dots. What do we do this week? Or what series are we in? So it's sort of like connect the dots club colon deep for deep adaptation questions or something along those lines, so that it's kind of branding that time sort of thing. Anyway, it just occurred to me and I wanted to share it over to Ronnie.
I like that idea. I think it makes a lot of sense because a club is an ongoing thing. And yeah, and so there will be different themes for that time, just like with the navigation sessions, there will be different themes for those times as well. I agree about the newsletters, and I think that bi-weekly is good. And then on social media, I think a weekly post with all the events of the week is useful. And then like on Instagram, we can pin that page to the top every week so people know they'll see it this week's events and they can go there and then they can scroll through and there will be a slide. There could be a slide for each event, like what y'all are saying with the quote or a question. So navigation session on Tuesday, blank, whatever topic, and then et cetera, et cetera. And so it's all there. And then each of those events could be shared to the stories on a rolling basis. So they're getting more exposure. But yeah, it's all like formulaic and whatnot. That's all I have for now. Over to April.
That sounds really good in that it's integrated and it gives the information, I think, in a way that people need it, and also it kind of shows the sequence of stuff in a way. I did have a question about Ben's announcement about a possible Medium post, and I'm wondering, is that going to be, if you're looking at the fall semester, is that going to be a way to show the thinking behind these particular formats and topics? And also, will it sort of show what we're trying to build through doing it that way? That's it for me. Over to Ben.
Yeah, and that's my question, is what's most useful. I've got a lot of I've got drafts of many things, and there's a lot of this stuff I could bang out really quick. Like the thinking behind things, it'd be really easy to do.
Yeah.
And so what I need two things. One is some direction on topics that would be most interesting. I listed over here, sort of a bunch, these purple guys, or those are webinars. And then there's the pink ones here are, some possible topics. And yeah, so, I would really, really love some guidance on what would be most useful. And likewise, sort of an editorial council or something, or a process. In part because and I'm trying to feel into this. I wanna make sure that I that my voice comes out, like that it doesn't get committified, it doesn't sound like committee speak. At the same time, it's nerve-wracking for me to put stuff out. It's really it's really stressful for me to put stuff out there because I feel I'm afraid I'm going to overstep or I'm going to, alienate people or things like that. So, but yeah, those would be really helpful for me. Like I would love to have, and the other thing too is I want to figure out how do we invite people more than just me into writing and posting. And um, I have it's super simple. I've set up a Lifeboat Academy publication on Medium, and that means anyone can write and we can publish articles to the publication. And
Great.
so that can be a really useful channel for getting lots of different voices, perspectives in there. And then that's kind of where partly that editorial board, what are the guidelines for what we post or don't post? Are there some things that we don't want to put out there because in some ways we feel like it's incendiary, it, reduces inclusivity, it's, that kind of thing. So anyhow, yeah. I think with that, I'll pass back over to Roland.
Yeah, first, the just as a follow through or follow up with the connect the dots proposal of having it be the thing that what it also does is that it is predictable and consistent, which are two concepts that I keep hearing a lot in terms of helping with engagement. So something that's recognizable, that's predictable, and that is done consistently. And yeah, I thought also with the well, as Ronnie was talking, I was also thinking that the listing the topic in a quote is it's kind of like a mini MOOC.
Hmm.
You know, it can be it can also be used as a way of setting up for the next connect the dots, almost sort of like a mini MOOC or like psychological inoculation. Here's something that you can to put in the back of your mind in preparation for. And so, oh yeah, and what you were just saying, Ben, about having sort of a review board, not a review board, but someone to look through stuff that you write to, so that there's agreement that it makes sense. And I would love to have something like that also for things like the memes. I have some memes that I've set aside because I don't know if they're too much, if it fits or if it's just me. So not just for larger pieces, but he's even also for, or even individuals that say things that are really clever, that seem to fit, but that their overall philosophy maybe doesn't quite fit, or maybe it does. And so for the quotes, that would be super useful as well. Um, yeah. So over to Ronnie.
In terms of the Medium posts, I think it'd be great to feature one every newsletter. So
Mhm.
every 2 weeks, we're not saturating people with posts, or 2 weeks or once a month. I think every week would be a lot. Also, that eventually you would probably run out of articles if it were
Me.
that. No, okay. Well, still,
Me.
every 2 weeks, it's like less anxiety for you putting so much stuff out. But also, we could use the coordination circle as a time where it's like, which Medium post feels appropriate for this week, whether it's something to do with the navigation session topic or connect the dots club. I want to run this by y'all really quick. Same goes for memes or anything else to go on social media. That could be an opportunity to be like, here's what we're putting out this week. Does this look good to everybody? Do we need to make any changes? Um, I also like the idea of the mini MOOC thing. And part of the thing with Instagram engagement is if we want people to comment on stuff, we need to comment on stuff. and commenting on things increases their visibility in the algorithm. So a lot of stuff probably just isn't being seen at all. But if we can start doing comments, and the comment needs to be like at least a couple of sentences to get picked up by the algorithm. So
Okay.
we put out a quote or a question, people from the team, people we know, ask them to comment, and then that will make the posts get seen more so that other people will comment. Hopefully, that is the theory. So also, I just wanted to say in terms of Ben, like your writing being off-putting or overstepping. I heard this quote once that was something like, if you're truly being yourself, you will inevitably be the villain in someone else's story. So it's good to piss people off sometimes because that means you're doing it right. So over to April.
Agreed. And I love both the memes and the Medium posts. I really get excited about that stuff. I would love to be an editorial help with it. But the problem, of course, is catch me if you can. So that might be a somewhat empty offer, but would like to be kind of a sounding board with that too. So over to Ben.
Well, and I realized I was taking notes on paper, and I want to capture, and so I'm trying to catch up on, oh shoot, where'd it go? Yeah, I'm trying to capture some of these ideas because I feel like things are really, for some reason. Oh, that's why. There we go. Okay. I feel like a lot of these ideas are lining up really well. And I'm thinking for the review board, I I would suggest that it doesn't happen at the coordination circle in part because of distributed leadership, because I think that is it's a skill and an interest that some people will have who don't want to come to a meeting. And it could be also, like April's saying, that can be distributed without, it can be asynchronous. We could have, and I think we could even, like the catch me as you can, um, the way the MOOCs work, my understanding is you send it out, and then a certain number of people are going to comment on it. And it could be that we have that, something like that, where, say we get 5 people who are interested in it, and the first 3 comments that come back are enough. Like it doesn't have to be a universal, everyone reviews everything.
Yep.
So, there might be a way of establishing that system that makes it lightweight. And if it does find you on a good week when something lands and you read it and you can respond to it. Yeah, and I really like, Roland, your idea of kind of the psychological inoculation part of it, and makes me think it on both sides. So before the discussion, there's the question that kind of gets people thinking about it. And then at the end of the discussion, why aren't we inviting people to say, hey, if you feel inspired, if you're willing to write something up, write it up. Here's how to submit it to the publication, or here's how to submit a meme, so that we can, when people have these really good conversations and they are excited, we can give them, here's a concrete thing you can do, you know. So yeah, back over to you, Roland.
Well, and I would just wanted to comment, one of the other reasons for having sort of, I guess it's kind of a peer review of articles and memes, et cetera, is that when you put them out, it's actually really lonely. When there are people that you don't know how many people see it, you don't know how many people are touched by it. And so, you're putting stuff out and you're like, okay, 2 people gave it a thumbs up. All right. But is that anyway? So actually having people to be able to bounce ideas off of and to get the, yeah, that's great, or, that's wonderful. I'm wondering about this other part of it or whatever. That's part of keeping it sustainable for the people doing it. Um, I was also wondering about, and this is maybe voyons, qu'est-ce que t'appelles ça? Agenda topic. I was just wondering, at one point there was I think April proposed an engagement plan or something, and I was curious if there is any more thinking around that, or because a lot of what we talk about is engagement. Um, is there a right way of asking questions where you get the most reaction? I sent out a sort of a personal email to the people who participated in the 6 conversations. Nothing. I got no response. I think before that, Ronnie had sent something out to encourage the people who are part of the 6 conversations to respond, and I don't think we got anything. So people like it, people people crow about it, and then beyond the actual meeting time, there doesn't seem to be anything happening. So I'm curious about any further thinking around how to get people to do stuff. Over to Ronnie.
I think that's all really useful reflection. Sorry, brain pause. I'm wondering if we could, I propose, Ben, that you and I and Austin potentially, like we could do it at mentoring this week, look at the personal development plan and retool it for the fall semester as something that we give people at orientation.
Mm.
So we send out, or we post the form in the chat or send it out and we say, here's your development plan for this fall. What skills do you want to build? What's your lifeboat project? What are your, whatever we want that to be. But just so that we don't have to use this time, I'm seeing that as a cool mentoring opportunity, and also as a way to bring Austin in more into this kind of leadership stuff. Because he's like a really good example lifeboat builder. So, and also as part of that plan, I just want to say out loud because it feels important, is reciprocity. So you are attending, which events do you plan to attend? How do you plan to give back for what you are receiving? Here are some ways that you can do that. Over to April.
Good points.
Mhm.
Agree, absolutely, and that moves stuff on. That's really good. The other thing is that sometime maybe we might want to have a half an hour conversation about engagement strategy, and then all the points that we know, the sort of hacks and points that we know that are successful, added kind of to that too. And I think engagement strategy, one part of it is what works on social media to get the algorithms and everything lined up in the way that social media works. That's part of it. And then the other part of it is what's the communication style that connects with people really immediately. And some examples of that sort of thing. And then maybe also a third part is sort of what is the trajectory of engagement over time? What should we expect at certain times? Anyway, that's just thinking, sort of tangential thinking. And my thinker is almost finished for the day, I have to say. So I'm passing over to Ben. It's all resting on you now, Ben.
Awesome. Good. Looking forward to it. Yeah, I feel like that's, and I think what you're talking about seems actually like a periodic reflection on what's lessons learned in outreach.
Yeah.
So it kind of seems like it builds on the seasonal plan, like that's part of our seasonal planning activity is each of the guilds should probably do a lessons learned. Um, what have we learned recently? What works, what doesn't? And yeah, I love all these ideas, and I feel like it's oh, and the scheduling conflicts, actually, I think that's another one of those thinking through how we accommodate April's schedule is thinking through how we accommodate, Andy's in Tasmania and we want to get him involved, but he's unlikely to show up at many meetings because the only times that work in here in in North America and Tasmania are, late afternoon. And that's great. And the only times that work in Europe are early morning. And so Janine and Andy will never be in the same meeting at the same time, even though they might have similar interests. So thinking through how, and that's why I think having that kind of asynchronous aspect to it, more writing, especially more like long form writing might be a way of helping to loop in. And it's also that's different strokes for different folks. Some people are not talkers, but they are writers. That they need more time to sort of stew on something. So, well, okay, it feels to me like we've got a plan for social media, we've got a plan for the newsletters. Um, we have some ideas on the review committee, but or the whatever we want to call this, the review board. We still need to kind of flesh that out. Where does that land? Where does that go? And the personal development, that's I think, Ronnie, I like your proposal. I see no problem with that. Let's bring it up at mentoring and see if we move that forward. So I think, yeah, other than figuring out where the review board lives or how we get that going, I feel like we are at concrete, we're gathering our next steps, and it feels like most of this is pretty action oriented. So anything in terms of next steps for what we need to do, is there anything outstanding? Roland, over to you.
Can't think of anything. Over to Ronnie.
No, I feel like this is plenty and it covers it. Over to April.
Nothing more. Over to Ben.
Yeah, the last thought I have around the branding, I like the idea of the branding, and I think I'm thinking it's like Connect the Dots Club : and if Connect the Dots Club is every Tuesday night, then what are the first 4 sessions? And because then the second set of sessions are deep adaptation, but the first 4 sessions we need something else, a little, like a descriptor of, oh, maybe it's mapping the territory or something like that, mapping the landscape. So map the landscape, Connect the Dot Club, map the landscape, and then Connect the Dot Club, deep adaptation, and then Connect the Dot Club, 6 conversations. So yeah, cool. Look, this stuff writes itself. All right, so I think we're good to go on that, yeah? All righty. We are hitting on all cylinders. Okay. So what I'm going to propose is I think that we actually we also covered, I think, the seasonal review, which is, I think, each of the guilds, I'd like to task each of the guilds with doing a lessons learned over the last 3 to 6 months, and lessons learned and concrete next steps that, are the focus for the next 3 months for each of the guilds, and that can go into the guild meetings. So actually just a quick around. So that would be basically tasking each of the guilds with confirming, actually, we've got one thing on the agenda already, confirming interest in the guilds, which makes me think we should also, as part of the orientation, we should introduce the guilds, remind people of the guilds.
Yeah.
And as part of that reciprocity, you could get involved in what the guilds are doing. And so for the guilds, lessons learned and what's the focus for the next 3 months that can be presented as part of the orientation. Any additions to that? Any concerns? Any objections?
So if I can paraphrase, what you're proposing is that each of the guild probably, anyway, each of the guilds, one of the things is to, for the current membership to confirm interest. And then the other is at the orientation that the guilds would essentially offer or present their reflections on lessons learned and communicate what the focus of the guild will be for the next 3 months. And that would be for the orientation. And so that means that at the next guild meetings for each guild, that this becomes an agenda item, or is it something that the coordinator whips up? Not the coordinator, caretaker.
Yeah.
So that's my paraphrasing and my questions of clarification. Over
Yeah,
to
and I
Oh.
will clarify, I don't think that the lessons learned need to be presented at the orientation. I think that really what's presented at the orientation is just an invitation. Here's what outreach will be working on. If you'd like to get involved, come join outreach. Here's when we meet. Likewise, for the other guilds. So yeah, confirming interest in the current membership, coming up with what the focus for the fall will be. That can be presented that, both is functional for the guild and can be presented as an invitation for other involvement. And then also lessons learned, which is really just internal for the guild, but could be shared at the coordination circle. Is that clear? Cool. Sounds good? Thumbs up? No problems? Awesome.
Can I just make a connection? Can I just say something about the guilds at orientation? I'd love to present the guilds as a way to give back to the
Yes.
Lifeboat Academy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
you give back by helping to keep this organism alive. And you'll be learning how to collaborate, how to facilitate, how to do a meeting, all those things. Roland.
I just realized we didn't get a chance to talk about the good grief stuff. Can we do that via email? And I will respond. If you send an email with questions, I will respond, I promise.
Well, yes, because I feel like, well, yeah, actually, I think that is good because I was assuming, yes, I think we should include it as part of the offering. It should be included in all of our promotional materials as a way for people to get involved, as something that, and actually, I think as an example of the mutual support system, like,
Okay.
you know what I mean? That this is something that you are doing and you are part of the network, and other people as part of this network are invited to it. And, we promote the work of everybody in the network that seems relevant. And in fact, actually, I think it could be kind of offered with like, and if you have something similar that you'd like to offer to the network.
Yes. Yeah.
Also in that kind of encouraging people to. But if there's anything else, yeah, I think we can handle that in email if there's any details there. Cool. And so just really quickly on the time banking experiment, there are a number of different things that I am finding out. There's a difference between time banking, something that are called LETs, local economics time system, something like time sharing, and mutual credit networks. And I personally don't want to do time banking. Time banking generally implies it's an hour for an hour and there's no money involved. And I think that they get really limited. Because there's no money, it's nice to give people the option of paying for something, because then it's just easier to get people to engage with the system. I'm having conversations with this guy in Africa who has something he calls commitment pooling, which I feel like is maybe the best way to go. But I am finding there's a lot of technology and a lot of people that are into Bitcoin, like
Yeah.
people that are into blockchain. And so I'm not sure how far we can get I thought we could set up something simple this fall, and we might be able to, but I'm finding it to be just somewhat challenging with the technology. And if anybody is interested in like sort of helping with that, I would love somebody to bounce ideas off of. But I don't I don't know where it fits in terms of guilds. Maybe that's the question: is where should this live in the organization? And it would be great to have some help. So that's my quick update. Uh, Actually, let's just go once around, because I feel like I don't want to just popcorn it. You can always pass, but I just want to make sure that everyone gets a chance, a kick at the can. Roland, over to you.
Well, I live with you, so yes. Over to Ronnie.
Good. Oh, I have one. I've been having a niggling idea, which is asking Andy if he'd be willing to produce snippets of podcast conversations to post on social media. 1 to 2 minute snippets, just as something else to offer. If people like different kinds of media, and even if it's not a whole podcast, I think that could be interesting.
Cool.
Anyway, that's the last thing I have, and my brain is feeling
Right.
like a French fry. So,
Okay.
and with the time baking stuff, yeah, yes, process.
We'll figure it out. Okay.
Yes, yeah. Over to April.
I have nothing to add to that. Back to bed.
Okie dokie. Well, we have gotten a tremendous amount done in a very quick amount of time. So no wonder everyone feels fried, because we just have vacuumed out every last neuron you had working. So
Yeah.
the system works. Long live the system. Everyone go collapse. So let's just give everyone a chance to, it's good to start in a good way and end in a good way. So anyone have like a checkout question? I always like just, last thoughts for the good of the cause. Just keep it open-ended. So any last thoughts for the good of the cause? Roland, over to you.
I like eating. Over to Ronnie.
We're doing it. Over to April.
I like thinking with you guys. Although, yeah, by the end of the session, I'm ready for a nap. But there we go. Over
Yes, me too. It's nice to have my brain wrung out every once in a while. It's like a good rinse. All right, awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. And we'll see you at our normally scheduled times and places. So
Bye.
bye. Keep the faith. Take care.